but I haven't watched the show in itself. No.
Well, I think season 2, I think it was season 2 or season 3, they have a similar thing where an army have a hostage who's the son of the leader of the opposing army, who's a woman, and they're like, "We have your son, we'll kill him if you don't surrender your castle."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, she stands up and says, "Fuck you all," and like flashes her fanny and
Oh,
is like,
ugh.
"Look at me, I can have 10 sons, kill them."
Ah, yeah.
Welcome to Vassals of Kingsgrave, and this is WolfCast edition, so the part-timers of the podcast crews. My name is Glen, I am Dago Shrippers from the Podcast of Ice and Fire forums, and I am delighted to be joined by Matthieu.
Hi, Barrick on the forums.
We will be reviewing episode 7 of Game of Thrones. I had to look it up because I forgot the title, but it's The Broken Man.
Yeah, several broken men in this episode, in fact. So, shall we start with lemon cake ratings first?
Yeah, sure.
I myself, I would give it. I mean, I think I'm one of the few who gave it 4.5 because to me, the only scene that was maybe a bit strange was the Arya scene. Even though I enjoy where the story is going, it was a bit strangely edited or choreographed. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, there was something a bit off about it. But apart from that, I enjoyed everything else about the episode, to be honest. Lots of good books for stuff from Jamie that I enjoy. Um, the the scenes in the Riverlands were actually quite nice also because they for me thematically embody what the books were about. You know that what this whole idea of peaceful, the striving towards peaceful living and etc. And to me overall, I'd say it's one of the better episodes this season. I would say it's yeah, it had fewer faults than I think people would say of the last episode of episode 6. But generally I enjoyed all the episodes so far to some degree. I mean, but this one is probably in the top tier of the season for me.
I felt that, I guess, of the episodes for this season, it's been the one I've least enjoyed, or, well, maybe, yeah. So probably this one would be a 3 for me, 3 out of 5 lemon cakes.
Mhm.
I just, I guess I didn't enjoy the story as much. I didn't like the flow of the episodes. But there were some great moments in it, just nothing as exciting as other episodes. So what you were saying about Arya as well, I thought that was maybe maybe a nod to the fans of the book. You know how there's the theory about her, warging and changing shape and changing into different animals. That maybe that explains how she disappears in the river and materializes again. So I liked that part. I liked the storyline with King's Landing as always, and trying to overthrow the, well, I guess the High Sparrow outsmarting everyone.
Yeah. No, that was quite fun because the last week people were wondering like, is she faking it? Is she like, has she actually converted or not? And so, if the character was played so well in that sense, that shows the strength of the story, I think, because in this case it was revealed that she actually has not completely converted to the faith of the Seven. So, but she apparently is playing them as best as she can because she's adaptable. So I would say she's sort of just riding riding the on the flow, so to speak. She's just trying to keep on top of everything whilst also trying to make her own moves. Which we'll see where it goes. I have a suspicion as to where the King's Landing story is headed based on what we saw in this episode. So, but maybe we can discuss that at the end, maybe if people want
Yeah,
to,
predictions
remain.
into what's coming next. What
Mm-hmm.
we're setting
Yeah.
up, of course, for the big battle scene for episode 9. So we get get to see Jon again and Sansa, and also we do see
The different houses, right? So
yep, exactly, the different houses and backstory with that. But what I was going to say is the Hound is back.
yes, the the cold opening that they do so rarely, which I think was quite nice. Although I mean I've seen some people who say, well, is this deserving of that? I would say it is, because otherwise you would see his name in the credits, and that might ruin something. It might just be that they wanted to make sure that people weren't going to be spoiled by looking at the names in the credits before actually seeing him on screen, which in this case it worked fairly
I've
well
never
in my
thought on that,
opinion. So
that it was. You're right, that can be, a big spoiler. It's like, how they back 20 years ago when Seven was released and they held off on revealing Kevin Spacey's name in the credits, so they left him
hmm
to the closing credits to not give away the ending. And
yeah.
it's sort of a similar thing that I've watched so many episodes, so many repeats of the episodes as well, that just like the name flashes up on screen and I know who it is. So you're right, that would be a big spoiler if I just suddenly seen well, Mark Addy or someone that we know is dead, but then if that character was to return.
hmm Yeah, no, that's actually, to me, I mean, Ian McShane hasn't been exactly subtle in what he's been I mean, when he talked about the show in the last couple of months, like he was saying, well, I'm playing this war veteran who is bringing back a beloved character that everyone thinks is dead. So some people who didn't read the books at first thought he was going to bring John back in some fashion, but yeah, most people had guessed that he was playing the Septon, who is a sort of an amalgamation of the elder brother and Septon Maribold, I think. So,
That's right.
yeah, I mean, I like the fact that, I mean, some people have said maybe that they wished the speech was in there. And given that this is Brian Cogman, who is sort of, a very big fan of the books and who knows these storylines in and out, you might assume maybe that they were going to use the language of the speech in the episode itself. But to me, as long as it's thematically similar, I don't necessarily need to have the written words from the page on screen. So, I mean, it's a nice touch, and the title of the episode refers to it. But I'm not sure that I actually needed to have the speech in there, because
I did hear some rumblings, and I'm sure I've listened to a few podcasts that spoiled the fact that he would be back anyway, so it wasn't a surprise. But even if I didn't listen to those podcasts, then we have read the books, so we do. I
yes.
mean, there is a big theory that the Hound is still alive and that he was the gravedigger that Brienne met on her travels. So I would expect him to be back anyway. Well, it does lead you to think what will happen with that trial, when will they show it, what will happen.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because we have some King's Landing scenes as well, and obviously
Yes,
the mountain is also in one of those scenes, at least. Even though he's just standing in the back, we just sort of, we're constantly reminded that he's there. It's sort of like Cersei's spirit animal following
Cersei's
around.
bodyguard.
Yeah, yeah. That's and so we had this scene where I mean the High Sparrow talks to Marjorie, and so wants her to conceive a child with Tommen, because obviously it would be much easier for the High Sparrow to sort of try to get a child sort of indoctrinated into the faith than having to deal with the parents. And then, at some point it's just a sort of generational thing where, this sort of, that's how their social values get passed down, essentially. And so he wants to cement his idea of the faith within the royal institution. So it's actually quite a devious plan, but and it's also important because he gets revealed to be a big misogynist, because apparently women don't need to enjoy sex, they just need to have patience.
Yeah, they just
So
need to suffer through it and endure it.
yeah, yeah, that's, but we knew that when we had the walk of shame last year. It's just that people weren't necessarily given all the context, but I think like in retrospect now, looking back at it, it makes more sense once you've seen this. So that's at least very important in terms of the books as well. That the faith is basically punishing women for just being who they are. Essentially, it's not really anything to do with what they do, because men do some of the same things, but they don't get punished in the same way. So um, and in this case, the High Sparrow is sort of threatening Olenna, which I found very interesting, given that we had a scene between them last season.
It surprised me that she actually feared the High Sparrow, and she recognized how clever he was or how much in control of the situation, and she stopped and realized that he's outsmarted, Cersei. Not that that was hard, and he's outsmarted, Marjorie, and he's now got Loras in imprisonment, and that she could be next as well, and that's why she has to get the hell out of there, out of the city.
Yeah, that's essentially what she also says to Cersei, that she wants to leave before he decides to throw into a cell or something like that. But I know that some people don't necessarily dig the King's Landing storyline because they think it's slow, or they don't know what the point of it is. Having these religious zealots in charge. But I can see where that might be headed, and yeah, once again we'll talk about that at the end.
I love it. It's my favorite part of the series, the books, the show. I just love the King's Landing, the characters involved with that as well. So I
Mm.
don't know how you could not like it.
No, it's just because I mean, people generally like when you talk. I mean, it's to me, it's also very interesting because I like I mean, it feels much more like a medieval conflict that you would see, like this 12th century argument. Is the Catholic Church and the Pope, are they more powerful than the kings or the emperors? That sort of thing. This sort of idea of the power of the faith and the power of the state. Um, that's actually a very real historical conflict.
We got a showdown with the Queen of Thorns and Cersei. So Cersei tries
Hmm.
to,
Yeah,
try and make peace.
making peace with Cersei. In Cersei's mind is always like, yeah, at the end I get what I want.
Cersei approached Olenna, tried to, suggest they work together, try and get both Loras and Marjorie out of this imprisonment, try and get, Tommen away from the High Sparrow's influence, and, work together with their armies. But then Olenna's having none of it, and she's out of the city. She's writing her final letter and requests and leaving, and then so it's a great scene between the two of them anyway.
Yes, especially because this time it's not any veiled threats or anything like that. It's just Olenna being completely honest about what she thinks of Cersei. When she says, sometimes I wonder if you're the worst person I've ever met, and it's actually quite accurate to how it's basically everything is Cersei's fault. So she is right to feel this way, and Cersei has never been anything but arrogant and belittling towards the Tyrells, and in every respect. So for her to now come to Olenna because she feels that they can work it out together, it feels like that's also another miscalculation on Cersei's part, because she doesn't realize how she has antagonized these people too. I mean, and how aware they are of that.
The Queen of Thorns has the best line of the episode, I thought, when she said that you've lost Cersei, and in all of this misery, it's the only bright side I can see.
Yeah, that was wonderful also, because it's an open acknowledgement, because it was also Cersei who said to Eddard, in the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. There is no middle ground. And so when Olenna says to her, you've lost, that's essentially saying to Cersei, yeah, at some point no one's going to need you, and no one's going to miss you when you're no longer here. So they might just be coming for you, and that's it. You don't have any allies to help you. I think next episode we might, at some point we have to get to her trial, right? We have to
They have
see how it
dragged
goes.
that out throughout this entire season. I guess they
Yeah,
always do
but
that with like big storylines.
it's I think Brian Cogman, he talked about I mean, at least in an interview for this week, he talked in on EW, he talked about time passing on the show, and he said, in some storylines time passes faster than in other storylines. And that's just for structural reasons, because if they were trying to align each and every storyline, for example, the northern storyline with Jon and Sansa might be going at a faster pace than, for instance, in King's Landing. But that is because if they were trying to align each and every thing that happens, in a chronological order that sort of plays out in the same time frame, then the pacing would suffer enormously.
Jon and Sansa traveling throughout the north, meeting all the big northern houses and asking for their support in
Yeah,
the battle against the Boltons.
and
So
it's interesting that the wildlings are, much more ready to support them than anyone from the noble houses, and it's probably because the wildlings know better than the northern houses what the ultimate problem is going to be. That's going to be the White Walkers, right? So
and after all that build up with, of course, the great scene between Lyanna Mormont and Jon and Sansa, and a 10-minute scene or however long it was, and at the end of it they get 62 people.
yeah, no, but that's I mean, at least it seems realistic, and it also explains why Sansa makes the decisions she makes at the end of the story this
Yes, to send
episode.
the Raven to Littlefinger.
I was wondering about that. Does she send it to Robin Arryn, or does she send it to Littlefinger? Like,
Oh,
I mean, because there might be a difference, even though in at least in her mind, although in practice, Robin Arryn is so under Littlefinger's thumb that basically it doesn't really matter that much. But
well,
she's not aware of that. At least to this extent, she wouldn't know that how strong his influence over Robin Arryn is. I would
I suspect that they might be setting up a battle sequence similar to Blackwater, where in that episode, so season 2, episode 9, where we thought all hope was lost, and then
yeah.
in the end, the Tyrell army come in at the end to save the day. That
Mm-hmm.
it might be similar with the Vale coming at the last minute to
Yeah.
actually, turn the tide on the battle.
That's a good story twist, because at least then, at least to other people, Littlefinger looks like a big hero, and so he has much more support than he would normally have. And yeah, so that to me that's where I see the potential of it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
exciting to see. Well, the other big storyline would be the Hound. We get reintroduced to him, the cold opening that you mentioned before, and
Building a sept.
yep, that's what I was going to say. So when we see that, and you see all the people like building, of course the Sept. I thought it was, the storyline from. I thought it was the Ironborn building ships.
Oh well, that the show wanted to give his ideas a lot of weight, so they gave the role to a well-known, well-respected actor who could sort of make these ideas feel important, because they are actually, this idea that you renounce violence, no matter, I mean, that you sort of have to be principled and help other people, and that you have a choice in the matter, and that it's and he doesn't speak from a point of, let's say, from naivete. I don't think he's naive, because both he and the Hound recognize what the likely outcome is. It's just that they reach a different conclusion as to what they are supposed to do in the situation. So
And I love
I
that
really
he says the greater power. He doesn't say faith in the seven. He doesn't say he doesn't choose a god to have faith in. He just says that Sandor, you're here for a reason. You didn't die for a reason, and he's not pointing to the old gods or the seven. He's just saying for some
purpose.
purpose you were here. You're
Yeah.
still here, and you will do something great. That's So that's a great message as well.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's always been. I mean, I'm not sure. If, I mean, there are lots of characters who could fulfill a certain prophecy, but it would be ironic if Thunder Clegane turns out to be the warrior of light, born amidst salt and smoke. I'm not sure. It's also interesting that that the Septon tells the people in the community it's not actually about the gods. It's about yourself. It's you make the choices. You answer your own prayers. It's not waiting for some deity to step into your life and help you out. You have to sort of try to realize your potential yourself. And it is a nice contrast to the High Sparrow, who is sort of like very, who thinks he knows what the gods are saying and who judges other people by the way they live their lives. And this Septon here is the complete opposite.
Well, talking about characters that have returned, well, we've not seen them for like 2 episodes anyway, so we've got Theon and Yara are back, but
Hmm.
suddenly in Volantis, and they're
Yeah.
making their escape plan, trying to get as far away from Euron as possible, and they've stolen his idea as well. They're going to meet
Yeah,
Daenerys
we do,
herself.
we do not so actually refers also to copyright. It looks like, It's yeah, we steal all your shit, especially your ideas. So,
I know they stole his best
um,
ships, and they're going to steal his plan to meet
yeah,
Daenerys first, and try and make some pact with her. And their bargain is that they get, of course, Pike thrown in, and then they'll help her get, of course, the Seven Kingdoms.
yeah. I mean, that sounds like a Quentin-esque quest, which we shall. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if one of them got roasted, or
Oh,
if maybe both
yes.
of them. I mean, that would be sort of a nice touch to sort of mix two different storylines into one. I think it's important to realize. I mean, because generally when you try to talk to someone who has mental psychological problems, so then the idea of suggesting them, if you can't come back, just kill yourself, is probably not the best therapy.
That's like what
But
Duncan was saying a few the last WolfCast episodes. He was saying that it's like such a contrast. So you've got the warm, loving relationship between Sansa and Jon, and then you've got the really horrible, distant, cold relationship between Theon and Yara. And it,
I wouldn't say it's cold. It's just it feels much more. It feels a bit harsher. Like they are rougher. The Ironborn are rougher people, and this is probably as affectionate as they get. So I would say, it could be that, this is just how she's trying to sort of show her affection for Theon. It's just that to everyone else, surrounding them, it feels like, a very harsh way of looking at
it's
things.
it's tough love.
Yeah, tough love.
I'm not really fond of the characters or the storyline, but I really love the actors. So both
Yeah.
Fionn and
Hmm.
Yara, and I always enjoy listening to the audio commentaries they do as well on the DVDs. They're just so hilarious. Like they did season 2, episode 2, the one where Fionn meets her and like he doesn't know it's his sister, so they reviewed that episode, and like
Hmm.
I must have listened to that commentary like 10 times. So I'm sure I've seen the actress in something else as well. Maybe like this British show called Shameless. I think she was in that, and
Oh, could be. I haven't seen her in anything else. I've seen Alfie Allen in other things, like John Wick with the Keanu Reeves. He played the villain in that.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and so that I mean, at least Alfie Allen's going places. They are very good together. I feel like having them interact is much more interesting. I mean, how do you I mean, what are your thoughts on Victorian, like in the books? Like, do you think that having them sort of replicate, sort
I
of,
think for
is
simplicity it is better to do that. It's better to condense the story, because there might only be another season left of the show, maybe 1 or 2 seasons left, so it's good to condense it and use the characters they have already instead of introducing new characters. So you were saying that the Arya scene was a bit weird for you, is that right?
Yeah, because last episode ended with her sort of blowing out the candle, in wherever she was, and the implication was that she was gonna try to get the wave probably in the dark, and then now she's dressed differently and trying to. I mean, obviously she has to hire a ship. That part to me was always clear. It's just that she was a bit not necessarily very careful in how she approached things, but it's also likely that she just let her guard down for a second, trying to sort of have a last look at the city that she tried so desperately to get to, only to get away from it again. And then the wave shows up disguised as an old woman and stabs her. That's it was a bit weird because people were likely people were likely expecting her to be more on her guard, essentially, once she had betrayed the House of Black and White. So yeah,
It sort of felt like a scene from a sitcom, so as in like the transformation from the old lady, like the sweet old lady, then she becomes, the waif. So like I feel like I've seen that in shows like Ugly Betty and like a dozen comedies where like you
uh,
see a character and then it's actually a hallucination or like a disguise and then it's someone else or it's like a dream sequence. But
mm.
I felt it was strange that Arya was just like so eager to get away at that point that she probably realized that she was in trouble. So
At the
like,
same time, I feel like the way she was dressed was also interesting because she looked a lot like Eddard. I felt like, in the way that she was sort of carrying herself and that sort of thing. It felt like she was looking a bit more. I mean, her hair and that sort of thing. I felt she looked much more like Eddard Stark than she probably herself realized, and that would be ironic given that she was just stabbed by someone literally backstabbed by someone. So I think visually, at least some clues are there, sort of to speak to us about the fact that Arya likely didn't realize until now that the danger that she was in, but it turns out now that essentially everyone around her is potentially a faceless man trying to kill her, and so she has no one to confide in, and the fact that she essentially, that's essentially how she wanted it, right? She's sort of trying to live on her by herself, trying to get her revenge by herself, not really make any friends and that sort of thing. And then that's how essentially when you are isolated, that's how you feel, right? And it's to me, it was also interesting when she once she got out of the water and started walking down the street. Essentially, it felt a lot like the walk of shame of all things.
I
Of
I did fear when it happened, and it was like just so quick that Arya appears on the scene, and then she's suddenly stabbed by the old lady, which I could see coming anyway. But I just felt that because I heard the Dragon cast talking about, um, yeah, what if we still see Arya, but it's Arya's face because she's been murdered by the waif, and the waif just uses her face. I thought, oh no, it's going to happen.
Uh, well, we'll see. I mean, next. I mean, it's. I think next episode we'll probably get a resolution on that. Because they can't leave us with this until episode 10. I feel that's going to be too long.
It will.
They have to address it at some point.
I think like Bran, episode 5, that was resolved. The next episodes it will be similar. So start of
Mhm.
next episodes it'll focus on Arya.
But we'll have to wait and see where it goes. I think to me the Arya storyline has been it's been a re-examination of Arya as a person, because she has been sort of the first couple of seasons she was all about revenge, and then she is being forced to abandon this idea of getting even with the world, right? And so At
I'm
least,
surprised how much she's been featured this season as well, because last season it was maybe 3 episodes that she was in, and then this one a lot more,
yeah, yeah.
continuous like storyline for her, which I'm glad of because I really enjoy watching her character too.
hmm I think I can, to me, it's not about Arya doing something, extraordinary or something like that. Sometimes I enjoy slower paced episodes and episodes that have mainly character building moments in them. So to me, for example, all that stuff with the theater group was sort of very interesting, and it's also lucky that this is the people that Arya will try to find now that she's been stabbed. I think she's going to ask Lady Crane to sort of help her out. Whether or not that's successful remains to be seen. But yeah, that seems the most likely place she could go right now because that's the only person she connected with.
Lady Crane wanted Arya to join the theatre troupe and become an actress.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could see it happening like that, but it might also be that that plan goes awry in some fashion and the wave shows up at some point and Arya might need to get out. Or, it's that's actually the thing that I like about the story is that I don't exactly know where it's going to be, how it's going to resolve. Like in some of these stories, you might have an idea of how this problem is going to get overcome, but in Arya's case, it seems like she has created a whole problem for herself that she is unable to get herself away from. Oh, we didn't discuss the Riverlands.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah, which was actually a book plot. That's actually quite important.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that the fact that they're, bringing in material which haven't has not been covered yet on the show, and this is like chapters from A Feast for Crows as well. So I love that, and the interaction between Jamie and the Blackfish as well. So the scene starts out with
the phrase trying
the
to
phrase
hang
trying
Edmure,
to hang
Edmure,
Edmure Tully,
who always gets the bad end of the stick in everything, right? He doesn't. I mean, he has to correct Rob's mistake, and then he is captured and put in prison, and now they almost hang him with his uncle sort of sanctioning it and saying, "Well, he's marked for death anyway, so just hang him."
Jamie is so right. They should have just hung, followed out with the threat, or, well, not make the threat in the first place, because
Yeah,
then
and
it
the
weakens their position if you go back on that and, say, we'll do it, we'll shoot him, we'll hang him, we'll do whatever, and then they don't do it.
Yeah, it's that's essentially the phrase. They don't have any leverage. I mean they just have Elmure in the books too, and so they don't get anywhere because the Blackfish essentially is ready to sacrifice his nephew because he feels that there's it's just tough luck, right? It's not really his nephew is not worth giving up the castle and essentially subjugating the Tullys to the phrase. So that's I do enjoy Bronn and Jamie smacking the phrase around because they are sort of pathetic in a way that they have no say whatsoever in their own lives, right? At home, their father is sort of the one who calls the shots, and here they're sort of completely useless, and they just don't get anywhere. It feels like they're definitely trying to set the stage for that thing to happen that we discussed earlier.
Oh, yep, indeed.
Mm. Which I mean, it's also important that there was a hanging involved at the end of this episode when we know who in the books likes to hang people.
Oh, yes.
Uh, yeah, and so I mean, the phrase that we see in this episode, they might not be here for long. I'm just saying.
P.S. I would love to be as cool as the Blackfish.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have any fucks to give, so that's just how he be would be.
All that we've seen so far is really making me want to go back and read A Feast for Crows as well.
Yeah, I
Like
mean that
a lot
because
of
the
the scenes
scene.
that we've seen in, the episodes this season of the show.
Yeah, no, I have an affection for the book, even though I don't think I mean, A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons live up to the same standard as the first three books. I think there's some elements that I enjoy. I'm one of the rare people who enjoyed the Brienne chapters in A Feast for Crows, because I know that lots of people say, well, she's just wandering around aimlessly, not really getting anywhere until the very last chapters.
By the
Um,
way, have you ever watched The Borgias?
No, but I mean, I've seen clips of it, but but I haven't watched the show in itself. No.
Well, I think season two, I think it was season two or season three, they have a similar thing where an army have a hostage who's the son of the leader of the opposing army, who's a woman, and they're like, "We have your son, we'll kill him if you don't surrender your castle."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, she stands up and says, "Fuck you all," and like flashes her fanny and
Oh,
is like,
ugh.
"Look at me, I can have 10 sons, kill them."
Ah, yeah. Okay, that's
So that reminded me of,
oh yeah, could be
the
yeah. It's
Borgias when I was watching, the scenes with Edmure and like how the Blackfish is like, kill him, just kill him anyway.
Even though the Borgias, I mean, the show, from what I understand, it came out in 2009 first, was it?
I think it might have been the same time as Game of Thrones, so 2011.
Oh yeah, okay. Because then I would still say that A Feast for Crows did it first, because it's a. But yeah, no, it's actually quite. I mean, that would be a good conflict to have, sort of in general. If you have a siege, you make it interesting that way, right? You have to give the besieging army sort of a kind of leverage that they could try to use, and then either it succeeds or it doesn't. But this probably is a good place to end on, right?
Yep, exactly.
Um,
So of course we've done this one now, so episode 7. I was thinking about doing maybe like episode 9 or episode 10, but then I thought I've not checked my schedule yet on,
yeah, yeah.
if I'll be able to do it yet. But I was thinking of maybe like the next one, like the final one, would be just a season 6 overview review episode. So not doing any more episode reviews, but doing a season review.
Oh, do you mean like so that because then we are much more at liberty to sort of decide when we are going to record, so
Yeah,
that everyone is
exactly.
available. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Because then we also have the season as a whole to look back on and see how everything played out so far, and we can sort of we don't necessarily have to say let's wait and see. We can all just say how we felt things were handled. Yeah, the only thing that we didn't really get to talk about was because I had my suspicions about where the King's Landing storyline was going to go, and I think that it also harkens back to the vision that Bran had in episode 6 of the Mad King and the Wildfire,
Ah, yes.
because the caches of Wildfire are still beneath the city. So if Cersei was really desperate, I'd say that's how, she could try to solve a problem, even though that would not be a good solution. But it would be a very Cersei-esque move to just blow up everything. And yeah, if he can't be in charge of the city, then probably she thinks no one else can. So I mean
Well,
that sounds like a likely scenario, and also probably the reason why they showed us the wildfire in episode 6.
I feel like going back and watching that scene again, but it's so quick, it's really hard to see anything.
Yeah, I mean, people assume that it's that the stuff with the Mad King was there because they want Bran to sort of go into the past and see that vision, But I don't think that is actually something that Bran is going to explore this season, at least. So might be that they explore it next season, but we might. I think we might get Tower of Joy before we get something with the Mad King, because that's more important. So, episode. I'm gonna say it now. Probably in episode 10, we're going to see the resolution of the Tower of Joy.
Ah, perfect.
We'll see. But yeah, it's just because I thought, might be a good place to sort of speculate as to where things go in King's Landing, because there are enough. there's enough evidence in this episode to suggest that this is exactly what Cersei is going to do, because Lady Olenna sort of says, you have thousands of enemies. What are you going to do? Are you going to just kill them all? And I feel that this is exactly what Cersei is going to do.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
well, thank you for joining me, Matthieu, for this review.
yes,
And
it was
thanks
a
to
pleasure.
everyone out there that have listened to the podcast. And possibly next episode would be a season 6 overview episodes.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. So I guess this is where we say to the listeners, see you next time,
Please
I
come
guess.
back.
Yeah, please come
listen
back.
next
Yeah,
time.
please listen to us. No, but anyway, so do you have any other podcasts that you're going to do in the next couple of weeks, maybe, or is there
Oh, that's the
something?
thing. So usually I quickly try and release it within a few days and, before the next episode of Game of Thrones. But then there's sort of, I guess, with scheduling of like a few episodes, like I think that it seems like about 10 episodes of like different shows are being produced at the moment, and then we've got the 300 episode as well, which
Oh yeah.
I took part in, so that's coming out soon as well. So I don't want to,
Which
you know,
one was that about? What was that about? This the 300 episode?
well, the 300 episode, it just had a lot of the long-time hosts, and they talked about, their favorite moments, what they felt about the podcast, why they keep doing it each time. And
Ah
there's
yeah.
a few other things, like a few little, favorite moments, or like a clip show of past episodes as well.
Ah, wonderful. So that
So
would be a
I
nice
don't want
callback.
to, release it and,
No, no, of
oh,
course, yeah, that
no, I
one has
mean,
priority.
sort of like so 300, that has to be the 300th episode, but then I don't want to release mine as 301 and then someone else does theirs as 301 because they
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I see
realize,
what. Yeah, no, then that would mean you would have to coordinate with
yeah,
the other hosts and stuff. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see. But yeah, then let's probably agree to meet again in a couple of weeks.
yep, definitely.
And good luck with editing the other
Yep,
podcasts.
I'll try.
Hopefully, the recorder didn't let us down this time.
I hope
Uh,
so.
and yeah, so see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.